Hello, this interview with Anna Ansari will be in two parts. So, part one of the Silk Roads is released today, and then next week, next Wednesday, we have part two. Enjoy!
But the reason I wanted the photo of the lamb carcass in there, the sheep carcass, is because that lamb fat, that tail is so prominent. And it's not just prominent visually, but just it is in all the cuisine. Yeah. And it does taste different.
And it's an ancient thing, like...
It's an ancient thing.
The text from ancient Mesopotamia talking about lamb fat tail, sheep's tail.
There are poets in Central Asia that say, like, I love you as much as a lamb tail. Like, you are as beautiful as, like, a fatty lamb. And I'm like, that is so sweet. Actually, I mean, it's odd to us now, but, like, no, I see that.
Hello! This is the Delicious Legacy Podcast, and I'm your host, Thom. The food of the past always fascinated me. What did our ancestors eat? Do we have recipes and ingredients that survive down the millennia to this day? What are the long-lost ones, the ones we forgot or discarded away as our tastes changed? And should we bring them back? What are the myths we tell ourselves about our national dishes and cuisines? How interconnected our past cultures were and what role the long-distant trades played, shaping our food cultures to this day. What can we learn from the past about our diet, nutrition, feeding a country's population, the happiness that eating together brings, and how to protect nature, the soil, the environment, and it sustainably without leaving people hungry and the planet scarred? The past can be a foreign pantry, to paraphrase a popular saying, but it is also delicious, full of fantastical tales, unique moments that shaped our forefathers and stories of extraordinary people. If we get a glimpse into an ancient kitchen, we can understand the origins of our recipes and the reasons of how and what we eat today. We can touch Ariadne's thread and follow it out of the kitchen's labyrinth, free to go all over the world to taste the universal, fundamental truths that connect us with one another and with our shared history. This is the quest of the Delicious Legacy Podcast. Welcome to another archaeogastronomical adventure. And before we go to our episode proper, a quick interjection here to thank all of the new Patreon backers. Your support means the world to me, my dear new Patreon members. And also, I'm thanking, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, all of the loyal supporters of the past 5 years. We've been on some adventures, haven't we? There's a wealth of gastronomical treasures to discover in the Patreon archives of the Delicious Legacy's posts. Recipes and musics and thoughts about past gourmands, historical dishes, and ancient, almost lost traditions from cultures the world over. Plus, of course, there are bonus episodes and extra audio content for your ears and only. So why don't you join me there? Now I know that times are hard financially for everyone, and things are uncertain. And if only there was a certain academic discipline that could teach us about the past and the lessons we could learn. Anyway, since times are hard and many people can't afford to support financially the podcast, I understand that. But you who love it so much, please rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, or Acast, or Pocket Casts, and wherever else you get your podcast from. It helps enormously to get the podcast out there on top of people's feed suggestions. And of course, please also share it with friends and family and colleagues. We have many more ancient adventures to explore together. Anyway, back to today's subject. It was a wet and grey early February day. A day that you cannot really describe as cold, but the humidity in the air, this wet dampness, was penetrating in your bones. It was making it feel exceptionally London cold weather, not pleasant at all. When I went to meet Anna Ansari for our interview in central London. Our destination was an Uyghur restaurant in Clerkenwell. Certainly a cuisine that is in the more niche category of restaurants that are in London. But they have been popping up and springing here and there in different areas the last 5 or so years. And it seemed like an appropriate place to meet Anna and talk about her book, Silk Roads, basically the cuisine of this vast Central Asia area, from Baku to Beijing, Azerbaijan to China. And the Uyghur cuisine highlights this interconnectedness of Central Asia, and it gives us a very, very good and detailed picture of what the food is and how it slowly changes from east to west and from west to east in these vast central plateaus and plains and steppes of our Eurasian continent. The Uyghur people are basically a massive ethnic minority in the western fringes of China, and they're Turkic people, and they are part of these migratory nations that went from east to west for thousands of years, and they have connections both in language and culture and food and religion-wise as well, with people all the way to Azerbaijan, thousands of miles away. And this venue proved to be exceptionally perfect for my interview with Anna, as I said earlier. So, Uyghur people are Turkish-speaking Islamic people who primarily live in China's Xinjiang province, and they are descended from the Sogdians of old, a fierce and powerful Turkic European people who once made their capital at Samarkand in modern-day Uzbekistan. Until, that is, Alexander the Great made his way westward, arrived at and conquered Samarkand in 329 BCE, and famously proclaimed, "Everything I heard about Samarkand is true, except for one thing. It turned out to be more beautiful than I could imagine." Since then, since that defeat and the loss of their capital, the Sogdians turned to trade, and until the end of the Tang dynasty, were the main traders of these ancient routes in Central Asia that we famously call Silk Roads, due to both their physical control of the desert oases and the trading posts, as well as the fact that Sogdian was the lingua franca of Central Asian trade. This is from the actual book, the intro of Anna's book, Silk Roads. Anyway, enough from me for the moment. Let's go and hear from Anna on that conversation in the restaurant. Anna, thank you for coming to the Listen to Podcast.
Are we recording?
We're
recording. All right.
Thanks for joining me for lunch.
Thank you so much for asking me, Thom. This is very exciting. I'm like a fan of your podcast and happy to be taking part.
Great. Let's
order.
order. Yes.
Let's order some food.
Yeah.
We're recording a podcast here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Can I join you?
Yes.
You have joined.
Possibly. Yeah, you are part of
Thank
it.
you very much.
So we're at Touche Uyghur Cuisine in Clerkenwell.
Oh, yeah.
How long have you guys been open?
Now it's nearly 6 months.
6 months.
Oh,
Wow,
right,
that's
yeah.
pretty new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very new.
Very exciting.
Cool.
Well, let's go for the prologue, man.
For like my beef.
What do you think?
Yeah? Beef.
Beef?
Yeah.
You don't have it with lamb?
No, because if you want the beef, I recommend number 3.
Yeah. What do you think is best with number 2?
Because this pear lagman is like small, and a little bit harder.
Okay.
Oh.
That's why I recommended number 3. Yeah, it's up to you because if you like this is number 2, this doesn't matter.
Okay.
You make it.
Number 3. You recommend number 3? Yeah. Let's do number 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Corn chop with
How you think with
chicken or
chicken? What do you say?
beef. Yeah, I recommend the chicken. This originally comes with chicken.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I recommend the
Okay.
chicken.
All right. Let's do chicken.
Because 99% ladies like this is corn chop with tofu or chicken, something like that.
Oh, I like the lamb. Speaking of lamb, can we get some tush kebab, lamb skewer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me 2, right? How big are they?
This is,
Little.
yeah,
What are those guys?
Yeah.
Yum yum.
small guys.
Like
Yeah.
a little. Yeah.
2 of those?
2 of those, yeah? Samsa, you said?
Yeah, can we get two samsa?
Samsa.
Yeah. And some dumplings.
And some dumplings, some petir.
Manta, right?
Yeah. Brilliant. Let's go with this. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
And ayran.
I want to try the turnib, the shalgam.
Yes, I was going to.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah.
Let's have two of these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's try
Okay,
it, yeah.
shalgam. Okay.
I get some black tea as well.
Black tea,
Yeah.
Or I make for you Uyghur tea.
That sounds great.
Yeah, sure. This
Is caffeine?
no caffeine
Oh.
at all.
See, I need caffeine. No, I need black tea.
Really?
I need some caffeine.
Yeah, I got that caffeine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I'm tired.
Yeah, I make for you this.
Okay.
Inject me with
Don't
caffeine.
worry. Because herbal tea is never you see.
No, I need to like wake up.
Okay, yeah, that's the. Right. This herbal tea actually is wake up, you know.
Yeah,
This
wake
is-
up tea.
Yeah, wake up tea. Yeah. Okay, and this is herbal tea with teapot.
Okay.
Sharing, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Is okay?
Yeah.
Guys,
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and then some tap water.
Sure, sure,
Yeah,
definitely.
thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Rahmat.
Oh,
Hello.
same language. It come from maybe some root, maybe same root.
Yeah.
No, I heard you say that Rahmat to them. That's what I hear people say in Uzbekistan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it says Uzbek. Our language is close to then Turkish to this Azerbaijan language.
Yep.
Okay.
So my
wow.
dad is Azeri.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why. That's we
Çok soğuk.
focus. That's why in history.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of work is the same. We directly this is contact.
Yeah,
Oguz
brilliant.
Turks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, that's exactly what we need.
Yep, that's a way of starting this conversation,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. So Anna, you wrote a book called The Silk Roads.
Yep.
Which is all about.
it's all about. I mean, it's what it says on the cover, right? It's the subtitle is a flavor odyssey with recipes, because it's not just a book; it's a cookbook from Baku, which is in Azerbaijan, to Beijing, China. So it's all about the way in which the food and flavor and people have sort of traveled and migrated and sort of just moved across the Silk Roads, this sort of, fabled network of trade routes of antiquity and still of, present day. And how ingredients, it's not just ingredients, but people, flavors, dishes, ideas, how they've all traveled. And I've put it into a cookbook format. So you can learn a little bit about the history of the walnut, as well as eat a beautiful noodle dish and hear about like what it was like to grow up in, suburban Michigan. So it's all in one little package. I think it's like 200 and some pages, so not too little of a package.
Not too little.
But I really wanted to sort of connect my own family story and personal history to this greater one. And Baku is on there as the touch point there in the title and in my life, because my father is Azeri. He is from Iran, so not from Azerbaijan proper, Baku being the capital of the Republic of Azerbaijan, but from outside of Tabriz, which is in northwestern Iran and is the sort of Azerbaijani province within Iran.
Yeah.
And then I spent a lot of time in Beijing. I started going to China in the 90s when I was 15 years old.
Yeah, you went very young. Yeah.
I went at a very young age. It was 1997. I spent my 16th birthday in Shanghai. It was crazy. It was really amazing. And it was a surprising choice, I think, and my parents kind of forced me into it. But it was, they really were. And I think this had to do with the fact that my dad is not American or British, but he has a sort of different outlook on the world than I think your typical Western European or American does. And he back then was like, oh no, China is going to be very, very important in the world. You should go to China. Why you don't want to go to Europe? Blah, 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 blah. We can go to Europe on vacation. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, it's
Not backwater
1997.
place.
I'm not going to take you to China. So I went to China, and I really was so taken by my entire experience as a teenager that first summer that I took a year off in between university and high school. Oh, the samsas are here. But I basically, I went to, I was young when I graduated high school. I was only 16. So I took a year off and I went to China for a year.
Cool.
Yeah, I went to China for a year. I lived with a Chinese family. I started studying Mandarin Chinese, Chinese history, Chinese politics, Chinese culture. and Chinese food, obviously,
Yeah,
just on a
Thank
daily
you.
basis. Thank you. On a daily basis, I was eating Chinese food, and it was in one of, this is a very pretty little bottle. This is a turnip that we've got here, salgam suyu. Salgam means I think radish or turnip, one of the two. I have a salad called shalgam salad, but I don't know what this is. I've never had this. Have you ever had this?
No, I had the
No.
Turkish version of it, so I guess it's the turnip water that they
Turnip
do.
water. All right, let's have some turnip water. It's bright red. It looks like
Very,
cranberry mixed with
yeah,
pomegranate. It's so dark and beautiful.
yeah.
I wonder if there's beets in this.
Let's see the ingredients.
Yeah.
So you are American, Iranian,
I'm
Azerbaijani,
American,
in London. So, in a
I'm
sense,
married to a British man who's Scottish.
who's Scottish. So you're the perfect Londoner, basically.
I'm a perfect Londoner, and you're a Greek. So cheers.
Cheers.
Here we are, eating carrot, turnip, bulgur, salt water, garlic, and hot pepper.
Okay, very, very nice, but it's not turnip water actually. It's their own version.
That's not bad. I'm not
Not
against
bad at
this.
all.
No, carrot and turnip water. All right, cool.
Savory,
Well,
yeah.
like
bit
savory, a
salty.
little bit sweet, a little bit salty. I don't think it tastes. It says it's spicy. I don't get spiciness from that.
Not
but
very spicy, no. You are listening to the Delicious Legacy podcast by me, Thom Dinas. There's more to come after the break, and it gets better.
But no, when I was in China that year in between high school and college, I went, not only to eat a ton of Chinese food, but there was this one meal I remember so clearly, maybe within the first 10 days of being in Beijing on this program. And all these like skewers of lamb came out on a platter, and this big, massive bowl of noodles came out, and the noodles were the noodles looked kind of like thick, chunky spaghetti. They were like rounded, but they were like not thin, but they were not like the way, I don't know, they were just like chewy and delicious and coated in this tomato sauce and with chunks of red pepper and green pepper and onions and lamb and just these flavors that tasted like nothing else I'd ever had in China. Like it didn't taste like any of the Chinese food I had been eating either, in that first 10 days of that program or the summer prior to that. Beautiful, we've got tea here too. Or at any Chinese takeout restaurant in Michigan, which is where I grew up in Detroit. Like this was something else, but it tasted so familiar to me as well. And like I couldn't really understand why that was until I realized that what we were eating was Uyghur food. And what Uyghurs are Turkic people who are, through a long history related to basically Azerbaijani people. And the flavor that I was really tasting in this noodle dish was cumin. And the reason cumin was in this dish had to do with basically what I've written about in Silk Roads, which is the trade and transmission of these ingredients across Asia across time. And so I, 17 years old, sitting in this little alleyway restaurant in Beijing, being like, what the heck am I eating? And it's so different from everything, but also tastes so familiar and but I didn't understand why. And it was only a couple of months later, my father came to visit me over Thanksgiving, actually. He came to Beijing for Thanksgiving. He flew to Iran and on his Iranian passport, by the way. So he never had a Chinese visa in his US passport. He just flew directly from Tehran and waltzed on in because Iran and China had really great relations. So you didn't have to get a visa. Whereas it was a pain in the butt to get a visa back then from as American and presumably British perspective as well. But I took my dad to this Uyghur restaurant because I was like, oh, you have to taste this amazing food that they have in China. And meanwhile, he's just chit-chatting with the waitstaff. And I was like, what is going on here? They didn't have a really massively fluent conversation, but a good enough one that they all knew what each other was saying because my dad was speaking, oh, lovely. My dad was speaking in, his dialect of Turkish and the Uyghur, waiters were speaking in theirs. So they were just kind of like, hey, we know each other. We kind of know what what we're each saying and we're figuring it out because it was similarly enough. And my dad was like, oh, these are my people. These are your people. We're all Turks. And I was like, what's going on? I just brought you here because it's Thanksgiving and I want to do something cool.
And
And he-
you
then
know
he-
everybody.
And he looked at the Chinese money as well, actually, like a Chinese note. And around the edge of, I think to this day, I mean, I was in China recently, but they basically pay for everything by Alipay and Weibo now, so you never see cash. Like you don't
okay.
even use credit cards. It's just like phone to
Yeah,
phone
yeah,
to
yeah.
phone. So I don't know the last time I actually saw a Chinese dollar note, like a renminbi note, but it used to be that all around on the edge of the notes, they had the script of all the national minorities
Right.
and majority, and the Han majority, the sort of normal Chinese script that you would see, at a Chinese restaurant. Simplified though, but
Let's go for it.
they had Turkish. It's an Arabic script, but it's on
Right.
Chinese money. And my dad was just like, wait, what? Like, why is there Arabic script that I can read because it's it's written, it's, the Turkish language or in Iran and across a number of Turkic regions, they use the Arabic script
Yeah,
in order to,
yeah.
write their language. But he was like, why can I read Chinese money? And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm the one who was here to learn the language. Like, I can't read the money in Chinese yet, but you can. And it was just, and for a really long time, he kept that note in his wallet to show people, to be
Yeah.
like, look, there are Turkish people in China. And so here we are at a Uyghur restaurant in London. And this is very similar to the noodle dish that I had in Beijing and that I've had, countless times and so rarely outside of China.
Well, let's dive in.
Yeah,
What
I'm
do
gonna
we
take a
have?
little picture.
Yeah. Yes,
This,
actually,
what do you think?
yes.
Yeah, this looks good. And there's a little turnip drink and a beautiful pot of tea as well that the waiter has so kindly
So we have
caffeinated for me.
samsa.
We have some samsa.
We have some noodles.
Noodles, which I look, again, to be tossed in a nice sort of tomatoey sauce, but not like, it's not heavy like a marinara sauce or a ragu that you would find in Italian cooking. It's more that it's just coating it kind of nicely and softly. But each noodle is coated, and there's some red pepper, some green pepper, sesame seeds, and apparently chicken.
Try this.
Yeah.
Samsa.
Samsa, I love samsa. Yeah. Oven cooked bun with a kind of flaky pastry on the outside. We've got sesame seeds on the top, and this one I think had hand chopped beef.
Hands of
in
beef,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
With onions and.
Oh yeah, that looks great. Okay, that's delicious.
Silent descents.
So good.
So you would say that the interconnected flavor or spice throughout the Central Asia area would be cumin?
I mean,
Or do you have one?
there are plenty of flavors, right? To me, they're just like a combination of flavors.
But like a common
Excuse me,
thread.
but I would say, cumin, the actual seed cumin from the plant comes from Iran originally. Like that's its sort of, as you would say in Chinese, laojia, the sort of ancestral home of the cumin plant is
Right.
modern day Iran. And you get cumin across the board, right? You get cumin in Azerbaijan, you get cumin in some Georgian food, you get cumin in Iranian cooking, you get cumin in Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and into China. And not just in Uyghur cuisine, you get cumin in other non-Uyghur cuisines in
Right.
China, specifically northern Chinese, especially, and also in Shanxi province where Xi'an is. But this is all, this spice, this plant traveled, in both seed form, dried seed form, and then plant form as well across Central Asia, pretty much like in the pockets of traders and on caravans and camel bags and in the sort of the food memories of people too. I think like that's, something that
That's
I've found
yeah.
really, I do it here. I'm an American, you're a Greek immigrant. Like we search for these things in our new home that taste like our
home.
old home, that tastes like home, right? Even though this is home. So I'll taste something and I'm like, this tastes like America, So so to have that kind of, potential seasoning, maybe someone, and this is just like completely off the top of my head, you never know, right? Maybe somebody moved from Azerbaijan to far west Iran and was seasoning something and said, then, I want to change a little bit, make it taste a little bit more like what I'm familiar to. So they add a little bit of this, or they add a little bit of that, and then it goes on from there. And like you still are trying to make it taste like what you know.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
cumin
absolutely.
for me is one of these really, really key ingredients.
you.
Ooh, yay, lamb kebabs are coming out. Thank you.
And now I'm curious now.
Yes, and some flatbread under there. Like it looks like a layered and fried flatbread. But yeah, so for me, cumin is really the sort of a connecting flavor note. Not the only one, but certainly one that, you taste so much cumin in, especially across Central Asia into China. Weirdly, like less so in Iran and Azerbaijan, even though that was the first sort of flavor connection that I made as a teenager.
Yeah.
Like it's actually not like a massively strong flavor seasoning in Iranian food, but it's there. And so when you have the flavors and you suddenly taste to have a background, I mean, it's just like, oh, this does not taste like sweet and sour chicken. Like this tastes more like Iranian food because of the cumin than it did what I was having at like Mountain House in West Bloomfield.
I'm aware. I'm going to eat.
Let's eat. I'm worried I'm going to get tomato. I'm wearing a white shirt. I'm going to make a big mess. It's possible.
It's always possible.
Oh, that's so good.
I love the texture.
I know, right? That's why when I was trying to explain it, it's hard to say that it's a round noodle, but it's not thin, but it's not thick. It's kind of, and you can tell that, and it's not uniform. You can tell it's been handmade, right? Because some of it's a little bit thicker, some of it's a little bit thinner, some of it's flatter, some of it's rounder.
Yeah, and they're not too long. No.
Ooh, that one has spice. There's more spice than the turnip jerk.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, how did you end up writing a cookbook then? Because you were a lawyer.
I was a lawyer. I am a lawyer, technically. I still pay my dues, literally every 2 years. So I moved to the UK before Brexit. I'm married to a Scotsman. I'm a customs and trade lawyer.
Your expertise.
Yeah, that's my expertise. That's where I was working in New York at a customs and trade firm. And I moved here, and it was before Brexit. And basically all the recruiters said, number one, we don't really know what a customs and trade lawyer is. And the reason we don't really know is because when I explained to them, they're like, so the EU negotiates all of our trade deals, and we don't really have customs issues because our major trading partners are European countries, and we're all in this free trade, customs-free zone. So, you could spend another £20,000 and retrain as a British lawyer and start from the bottom. I was like, yeah, or not. Oh, no. Like, no, thank you.
What do I do?
Yeah, and I didn't know what to do. And I still, think it's really, really, I'm very fortunate that I feel like I fell into food writing. I fell into cookbook writing, recipe testing. And a lot of it had to do with COVID and being stuck in the house and wanting to feed my family, occupy my mind, occupy my hands, and also have a sense of movement. Like I love travel, like what kind of kid moves to China when you're 16 years old, right? And I moved over here, which was also challenging, but despite speaking the same language. But I mean, I really wanted to travel and I wanted to feel some sort of escape during a time when you couldn't escape, So I cooked a lot of Iranian food for like basically comfort. Oh, I'm going to learn about like Ethiopian food, or I'm going to learn about Ukrainian food, Polish food,
all these different
things, in kind of a way of like traveling within my own kitchen while simultaneously,
100%.
Cooking 3 meals a day is a lot.
Well,
that was a lot.
Having to feed the family.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Delicious Legacy podcast by me, Thom Dinas. There's more to come after the break, and it gets better. And obviously, that way you travel, and you also learn the interconnectedness of all these cuisines, like all these places. I mean, it's a huge area, Central Asia, the steppes, and the climate is not the same. Nothing is uniform. We can think of it a bit more like, okay, we have an image of Kazakhstan, the steppes and the desert, but it's so much more than that. And you have the mountains and
the lakes.
And then you learn even more about the whole connection with the West, from the Turkic people, from Turkey through Iran, through Afghanistan, and through Uzbekistan, and it's just so connected and so varied as well.
So connected, it's so varied, and it's so kind of underexplored.
That's a correct word for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
people don't know what is.
No, nobody knows. I mean, Listen, I feel like when I went to Georgia, people were like, "Oh, you're going to Atlanta?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to Atlanta." And like that's changing. Even a couple years on, that's changing. But it's like, no, I don't want to go to Atlanta. I'm sure it's lovely, but no thanks. But and similarly, like when I went to Uzbekistan, someone was like, "Wait, is that where Borat is from?" And I was like, "Oh my God, okay."
Not more.
Again,
Not more of the same.
No, but I mean,
stereotype.
it's just
the only thing they know.
It's the only thing they know, and okay, that lamb is amazing. Oh my goodness, I forgot we got dumplings as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, so good. Nobody knows anything. Not that's sort of dismissive. But I think there's a lack of understanding, and there's not necessarily, it's not purposeful. It's just how it is. It's just
Absolutely,
how it is.
No.
And then, it's a lack of understanding. It was a lack of understanding on my part, I think, as well. I mean, you asked how did I end up writing this? Like, part of the thing that I wanted to do, and which I, think I did achieve in Silk Roads, was tell sort of the story of how these trade networks connect people and food and flavors, right? But I did not realize, like going into it, how much more I would end up exploring, both in culinary and also research perspective. Like when I went to write my introductory essay about my dad, like falling in love with an Uzbek melon and trying to bring it back to the United States.
We'll have to talk about it later, about melons and the Central Asian.
Well, but like I didn't realize it was only in the terms of when I went to like do the research for that family kind of memory food essay that, basically every single melon in the world, not watermelons, but a different, type of melon, like Gaia melons, honeydew melons, cantaloupe melons, they're all like historically, archaeobotanically, like from Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
Like I did not know that. I didn't know that this is where these sort of foodstuffs that are so commonplace to us, and not just like us here sitting in London, like across the world.
Across the world,
Across the world, everybody's eating melons.
Yeah.
Nobody knows they all came from Uzbekistan. Like apples are all from Kazakhstan.
Yes,
like,
that's lamb skewer.
That lamb skewer, I just ate it all. You have
It was, yes.
I pulled it off with my teeth. This is one of these dishes that I actually only know the Chinese for it. Like yang rou chuar, lamb kebab skewer, basically. And I think it's interesting that I only know the Chinese. I don't actually know the Uyghur name for it because it's such like a ubiquitous thing in China. Yeah. You go into any major Chinese city, to this day, you can just see men, and it's always men, with their little barbecues out, like fanning the flames, fanning the charcoal embers, cooking kebabs, basting them all, and just turning them quickly, and then turn over. You're like, here, 5 cents for this, 2 cents, and I bet you can probably buy them with your credit card too. Now.
Yes, yeah. With your phone.
But with your phone.
Tap with your phone.
And like the one thing I really liked about this one in particular was it's so often in modern Western cooking, you kind of find meat that has been sort of had all the fat cut off of it. And I get that for multiple purposes. Health, people don't like the touch, I don't know, whatever. And I don't sometimes like fat on my things too, but you need the fat, I think, to be included on these lamb skewers, both to, when you're cooking them, it also helps keep them moist, and then the fat, and then usually this is on top of these flatbreads, right?
Yeah.
And so you can also, especially in China and Xinjiang, have the lamb, the dripping, melting lamb fat that comes off, that flavors the flatbreads underneath, and just kind of actually just moistens them up as well. So this lamb had some of that fat in there, which I really appreciate. Yeah. When I was recipe testing, I actually asked the company that was, helping me, Swaledale Butchers up in Yorkshire Dales. They were giving me a very lovely discount on their very excellently reared meat.
By the way, I only shop for meat from them.
Oh yeah?
I don't buy from anybody else.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah.
They are really excellent. They care so much about the farmers that they work with. They care so much about the land. They are really, I feel very strongly that if you're gonna eat meat, you should eat it from the sort of most ethical and environmentally sound producers that you can, and they're great. And their stuff is just delicious.
Yeah.
But I was like, can you just send me some lamb fat? Can I order some lamb fat from you? And they're like, what are you asking? I was like, I just want some chunks of fat.
Which brings me, we're going to talk about the lamb fat, the tail, the fat.
Lamb tails.
Lamb tail, yeah, the fat of the lamb tail, yeah. Very important part of the cuisine.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually fought and I lost. I didn't really fight, but I pushed in the production of the book to include a photo of a lamb carcass strung up at a market either in Azerbaijan or
Uzbekistan. You need that. Yeah.
I know, or in Uzbekistan, because I think, I talk about the lamb, the fatty, they're so funny. When it's like one thing to see these things strung up as in a carcass form, but it's another thing to see the lamb, like the sheep wandering around with these, it's like there's like a dongle that's just hanging behind them. Like these are, pretty large chunks of tail. They're just a tail. Their tails are filled with fat. And so when it comes in time to cook, like that is the fat that is used, that is rendered down, both whether it's in a sort of, frying situation or to be cut up in chunks and, put in between pieces of kebab meat, or again, rendered down in your rice. The pulao is going to be made with rendered lamb fat. And it is so flavorful. And again, it's this kind of, full nose to tail cooking, right? Like that's not something new. We're in Farringdon, right? Like St. John is down the road. This sort of like this great pioneer of British nose to tail cooking that suddenly, and I love St. John and I love Fergus Henderson, but this was a new idea. This is not a new idea. This is the oldest idea that there kind of ever has been in culinary history, and it's still being practiced today. But no, the graphic designer woman, she was like, I don't think that it would be great to have. Meanwhile, they were like, that might be a turnoff to see the carcass of the sheep. And first of all, I do also believe if you are going to eat meat, you should not necessarily shy away from what it is that you're eating. Yeah. So if you are uncomfortable, frankly, seeing what a dead sheep looks like, maybe you shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah.
But also, she chose a picture of a pig's head. There's like a pig's head in that page instead. Like it's just sitting in a butcher in Georgia. And I was like, okay. But I think, a pig's head, you can still see the snout, you see the face.
Yeah.
We know that's a head, but it's not kind of skinned and whatnot. But the reason I wanted the photo of the lamb carcass in there, the sheep carcass, is because that lamb fat, that tail is so prominent. And it's not just prominent visually, but just it is in all the cuisine. Yeah. And it does taste different.
And it's an ancient thing.
It's an ancient thing.
The text from ancient Mesopotamia talking about lamb fat tail, sheep's tail.
There are poets in Central Asia that say, I love you as much as a lamb tail. You are as beautiful as a fatty lamb. And I'm like, that is so sweet. Actually, I mean, it's odd to us now, but I see that. My great aunt from Iran, when she came to Michigan to sort of help my dad with my older siblings before he met my mom, because they were kids from his first marriage, she apparently got to America and was like, I am not using this lamb. Because the lamb in the US, she said, had no flavor. It didn't taste like the lamb in Iran. And my dad had been telling me, and so basically all the Iranian food that she cooked in the US was all made with beef. She was like, oh, it's America. They got good beef here. And it was true. The beef was quality compared to the lamb.
Of course.
But my dad, I remember growing up and he'd be like, oh, you don't understand. In Iran, the lamb is so good and it's because of these fat tails. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? This is so odd. And I really didn't believe him. And then I get to China in the 90s and I have this Uyghur food, and not just the Uyghur food, but lamb in the northern Chinese dishes as well, from the Dongbei area. And the lamb, it just has a different flavor. And apparently it's because of the breeds have this fat tail that they store their fat in there. So it distributes the fat differently within the meat, which leads to a different flavor composition in the, cooked
Cooked meat, yeah, of course. Oh, wow.
I know. I was like, I get it, Daddy. I understand the love of the fat-tailed lamb now, fat-tailed sheep.
You were in Uzbekistan and you were looking at this that truck or that trolley with all these 5 kilo tails.
I mean, it was just hilarious. Like, they were just like shaking around. And I just started laughing. I was like, these lamb, like these sheep, they just like shake back and forth. It was just, and also so cute. But I'm going to eat you later on, and I'll be okay with that. 'Cause I respect you. This is very good.
I'm glad you approve.
I do. And like, you know, I have a recipe in Silk Roads for a Uyghur noodle dish.
Yeah, this is the one you lagman. You call it lagman.
Ladman. This is kind of like this is different. The noodle is a similar thing. This is definitely a hand pulled noodle. And I say in my head note, like, listen, I've given you this recipe for a hand pulled noodle. Don't feel the need to do it if you don't want to do it. Because frankly, it's a bit of a pain in the butt to pull your own noodles, and it's 2026, and it's easy to go to the store. And now more and more, you can go also to Asian grocery stores and get sort of nice wheat noodles. Yeah. But I gotta say, eating these right now, I'm reminded of like what an actual difference it makes. I think that textural difference, the hand pulled noodles. I love the fact that this is like I'm holding up this little noodle. It's like. You can see some of it's skinny, some of it's fat, some of it's flat, and like it's part of the pleasure of eating this as well, is that there are these textural contrasts. Not everything is this, industrialized, manufactured sameness, even within just this bowl of noodles where every single bite has the same sauce on it. So yeah, sure, that is well spread across and similar, but each noodle is different. And like, that's so lovely. And you can tell that work and handicraft and knowledge and skill and history and heritage has gone into this bowl.
Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah. I'm confused by the chicken. I could do without it. I feel like I should have lamb, but
I guess, yeah, they bring it to...
I mean, we're in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have some more of that nice tea.
I have some tea, some bread. We've got dumplings here. I think what are they dusted with? Is that black pepper or is that cumin?
I feel it's pepper.
I think it is too. That would make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
These look wonderful.
That's it. Beef noodles. Yeah. Yeah, beef dumplings. Yeah. So more is... And this is the end of part 1 of my conversation with Anna Ansari. So if you enjoyed this, do join us next week for more details about the history of food in Central Asia and traditional cuisine from Baku to Beijing. The book has a lot more than what we discussed on those 2 episodes, and there are recipes for cold salads, soups and stews, sections about ferments and pickles, sections about eggs and vegetables and tofu, quadrupeds, fish and fowl, lamb and pork, and so on. There's a whole chapter about rice, a whole chapter about noodles, a whole chapter about dumplings and bread, and of course, a chapter about sweet treats. So do get your hands into it. There's so many great recipes from all over Central Asia. Before we go, I would like to read you a short passage from the book about these huge sheep's tails full of delicious fat. The Iranian transhuman pastoralists, whose seasonal migrations my father witnessed and whose sheep he ate as a child, were, in the mid-20th century, still as tied to and dependent on their flocks for their livelihoods as the Central Asia ancestors had been. Whether under the rule of Hulagu, Genghis, Tamerlane or Tsar Alexander II. And the sheep in question are not and were not just any sheep. They are fat-tailed little ovines, renowned for their chubby, dangling tails, which are full of blubbery fat that is frankly delicious to cook with and eat. You might not believe it, but on average, one of these tails weighs 5 kilograms, about 11 pounds. I cackled with glee at my first sighting of a cart full of fat-tailed sheep on their way to the market in Uzbekistan's Fergana Valley, tails all a wiggle. It made me think of Glenn Miller's Must Be Jelly, remarkable and unmissable to the foreign eye. The sheep's plump behinds evolved to provide their steppe and desert-dwelling selves with a food store to call upon in harsh times. Originally, it was the animal itself who was nourished by its own fatty tail, and now it is us. Right, I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Anna today. I hope you found it fascinating and it opened your appetite for more. And buy her book, Silk Roads, a flavor odyssey with recipes from Baku to Beijing, out now. And if this episode made you hungry for more, please like, rate and review wherever you get your podcast from. It really helps with the visibility of the podcast in the relative categories on the different platforms. We are now on Ko-Fi as well, so if you can help the podcast with one-off donation, please go to www.ko-fi.com/The Delicious Legacy Podcast, all one word, and give a $5 if you can. As you know, I'm not backed by any big media company and I'm not sponsored. This is, of course, a project of love and passion, and it's just me who does all the producing, recording, editing, mixing, week in, week out. Let me just tell you that I have so many more ideas and recipes that I want to share with you. However, I can only do this if I have your generous support. That's all for this week. Stay curious and cook something brilliant if you have time. If you want to ask any questions or want to get in touch with suggestions or ideas or any other comments you have to make, please email me at thedeliciouslegacypodcast@gmail.com or come over on Blue Sky, the social media platform which is a bit more pleasant, new, better, civilized Twitter in a sense, and join me there, or on Instagram where you'll find me as The Delicious Legacy. So I'm waiting eagerly for your comments, my clever, clever people. I'll see you again next week for another archaeogastronomical adventure. I've been Thomas Dinas, and this was The Delicious Legacy Podcast. Lots and lots of love. Bye!